Hello class 10th. So today we are going to start the new lesson number 4, second phase of Indian national movement, partition of Bengal and other developments. So in the third chapter we have already discussed how the term nationalism, which has been became Pakistan country India, and how the people it led to the arousing of the feeling of nationalism, the rise of International Congress, and also about the moderate pace of the International Congress. So in this chapter, we will read about the repressive policies of Lord Curzon, partition of Bengal, the rise of the extremist group, their works, their methods, and also we will read about the three great extremist leaders, that is the Lal, Bal and Pal. So we will start with the partition of Bengal. So whatever I am telling you in the video, that portion only coming from your book in the syllabus. So if we talk about the partition of Bengal, Lord Curzon, he was the Governor General and Viceroy of India from 1899 to 1905. Most of the unrest in that time happened just because of his policies. So his policies are totally repressive. There are many policies which he has adopted and it ought in turn to be repressive and against the Indians. But the Lord Curzon's most unpopular measure, which was the partition of Bengal, which announced in 1903 and carried out in 1905. So the partition of Bengal was one of them. So what is basically the partition of Bengal? The province of Bengal, it comprises, besides Bengal, proper Bihar, Odisha. So whatever Bengal we are having today, that was not only the part of Bengal at that time. At that time, the Bengal was comprising the part of Bangladesh, the part of Assam, Bihar, Odisha and Chota Nagpur. That means the area of Jharkhand and Chhattisgarh. So Bengal was a very huge province. And it is having a mixed population of Hindu and Muslim both. And has an area about 1,90,000 square miles with a population of 78.5 million in which both the Hindu and Muslim they lived. So Lord Curzon in 1905 he approved the scheme for the partition of Bengal. In that he partitioned the Bengal into two parts, that is the East and the West Bengal. So the East Bengal, it is having the majority of the Muslims, whereas the West Bengal, it is having the majority of the Hindus. So people were like, the Lord Curzon, he is basically giving the reason that why I am dividing the Bengal, because it is a very huge province and it is not very easy for us to administer. So he, in that way, he said that we are dividing the Bengal. But it is very much clear that if you want to divide the Bengal for the administrative purpose, you can divide it into North and South Bengal. But no, you are dividing it into East and West Bengal because it is having Muslim and Hindu majority and automatically you are using your divide and rule policy. So this basically led to the discontentment among the Indians. People were not satisfied and they protested all over regarding the partition of Bengal in the country. So we will read ahead what is the version of the partition of Bengal on the basis of the government as well as the Indians. So I hope you realized or you understood that what is basically the term partition of Bengal, why the Britishers they partitioned the Bengal. They just want to adopt the policy of divide and rule. In next, we are going to read the partition of Bengal with the British and the nationalist perspective. So there are two perspectives given by the two different people regarding the partition of Bengal. One is the British or the government perspective, what perspective they have given that why we are dividing the Bengal. Secondly, the nationalist perspective, that means perspective of our nationalist leader, or we can say the main reason of the partition of Bengal, the real reason, the true reason of the partition of Bengal. So first we'll discuss about the British perspective, that what are the reasons given by the British government and why they are partitioning the Bengal. First reason given by the British government is basically that the government gave the reason that Bengal was a very big province to administer and maintain. So division will improve the administration. So that's why we are dividing the Bengal. Second argument given by them was that we want to bring we want to divide, or we want to keep one linguistic people at one place. So we want to bring the Odia speaking people together under administration of the West Bengal. So we are just separating into West and East so that the Odia speaking will be in the West and the Bengali speaking will be in the East. But this is one more reason that they want to divide the Indian on the basis of religion as well as on the basis of language as well. So these are the two perspectives given by the British government behind partitioning Bengal. But what was the true perspective? Why truly the British are partitioning Bengal, or what is the nationalist perspective? So Bengal, it was the root of nationalism, that most of the nationalist activities it has initiated from Bengal itself. If we talk about 1857 revolt, International Congress, main perspectives, there are many freedom fighters which rose from Bengal. So Bengal was at the time the root of the nationalism. So this partition was basically held to crush the spirit of nationalism by division among the people and making them busy or within fighting on the basis of religion, and they will not focus on the nationalism. So Britishers also want to demonstrate their strength that we are the ruling people and whatever we want we can do that thing. So that was the main cause, that they want to break the root, or they want to uproot the root of nationalism in Bengal. Secondly, they want to prove their strength. Another move behind partition of Bengal was basically to divide the Hindu and Muslim and rule over them. So this is the nationalist perspective, whereas the British government perspective behind the partitioning of Bengal. Now we will read about what is Swadeshi and boycott movement along with the Surat split of 1907. So Swadeshi and the boycott movement was mostly made famous by the extremists. The purpose of Swadeshi movement was the expansion of the Indian industries to make ourselves self-sufficient again, to not be dependent on the Britishers. So Swadeshi and boycott were indeed complementary and supplementary to each other. Like without promoting Swadeshi or without boycotting the foreign good, you can't promote Swadeshi. For Swadeshi, you have to boycott the foreign goods. The boycott of foreign goods required that the market should be flowing with the homemade Swadeshi goods. So if you want your homemade good to float, you have to stop using of the foreign products. Initially, the movement meant abstaining from the purchase of British goods. In course of time, it became more comprehensive because now people understood that we have to bring back the self-sufficiency of our country. So Swadeshi boycott includes of boycott of English cloth, salt, sugar, revocation of English speaking in your vernacular languages, revocation of government posts and seat in legislative councils, and social boycott of those persons who are purchasing the foreign goods. So they used to have a bonfire in which the people used to throw the foreign clothes and they utilized the Swadeshi product. So boycott movement was intended to be openly an aggressive anti-British policy. It developed into a policy of non-cooperation with the British in every field and to make yourself self-sufficient. So this is basically the Swadeshi and the boycott movement. Now the Surat split of 1907. So the Congress was working, International Congress was working as an organization who can look after the grievances of the people. So both the moderates and the extremists, they were working together. But what happened at the annual session of Indian National Congress, which regularly held in the month of December every year. So at the time it held at Surat, which is in Gujarat, in 1907. So it's the Surat session of the International Congress. So every year when the session held, they select a person who will be appointed as the president or the presiding officer of the Congress. So in 1907 Surat session also, there arose a controversy in the appointment of president. As extremist group, they want Lala Lajpat Rai to be the president, whereas moderate group, they want Raj Bihari Ghosh to be the president. So there was a controversial issue, and there was they don't come up to one point, and because of that the moderates want that Swadeshi should be achieved by constitutional measures. Other than that, whereas the extremists, they believe that we have to give the answer to the Britishers in the way they are reacting or they are acting with us. So there was also controversy into their thought process. As a controversy, it increased and it led to no result, which led to the split in Congress into moderates and extremists officially till 9 years. So in 1907 Surat session, the Congress was divided into two parts, in the moderate group and in the extremist group till 1911. So this was called the Surat split, the split of the Congress into two parts in the Surat session of Indian National Congress in 1907 called the Surat split. Okay. So next, in which we are going to read about the objectives, programs and methods of struggle of assertive nationalists. That means the extremists were called assertive, the extremists were also known as the assertives, the extremists, and the radicals. So these are the three names given to the extremists: assertive, radicals, as well as the extremists. Okay? Yes. So first we read about the beliefs and the objectives of the extremists. First belief is that they don't have any faith in the British sense of justice and policies. They believe the Britishers are here only to root away the wealth from our country. They are not here for welfare. So they don't believe in they don't have any faith in their sense of policies. They believe that British are here just to extract money and destroy our self-sufficiency. They believe in that, and it is true. They believe we have to fight for our rights. We have to hold the spirit of self-reliance and self-determination. The ultimate goal of the people should be Swaraj, that is the self-government, not less than that. So these are basically the beliefs of the assertive or the extremist. Now, what are the programs and the methods adopted by the assertive nationalists to follow these objectives? So, number first is revivalism. They sought to build the national movement on the basis of people's religious belief. So they want to redevelop the religious belief of people, and for that, specifically Tilak, he revived the Shivaji festival in 1895 and Ganpati festival, so that people can come together, and when they are coming together they can have a talk, they can share their grievances, then they can make some kind of policies for themselves. So they presented Chandragupta, Vikramaditya, Rana Pratap, Shivaji as the national heroes who fought for their freedom, whose memory should be cherished. So reviving the national festivals, bringing people together, sharing the thought process, sharing the same grievances will definitely work for the people. So revivalism was the first method adopted by them. Second was Swadeshi, promoting the handmade product, promoting our self-independency and cutting down the self-dependency over the Britishers, boycotting the foreign cloth, boycotting foreign services, honors, titles to promote the Swadeshi, and the last is national education. So during Swadeshi movement, many new education institutions were opened by the leaders. The content of national education was as follows, like secular education, promoting of secular education, education of all the religions of moral education, political education, vocational industrial education. Religious education was aimed at building up a pupil's character, whereas political education meant carrying out the civic and political responsibility. So promoting this opening of new schools and colleges, giving them education in their vernacular languages, promoting our own culture, that was also one of the methods of the assertive or the extremist. So these are the methods and the objectives of the assertive nationalist. We will read next the difference between the early nationalists and the assertive nationalists. Now, what are the difference between the early nationalists and the extremist group? Number first, the early nationalists, that are called the moderates, had faith in the British sense of justice and followed the policy of prayers and petitions, whereas the extremists, that means the assertive, the Lal Bal Pal phase, had no faith in the goodness of the British. They cursed British rule for bringing misery in the India. So that was the first difference between their perspectives. Secondly, the moderates talked about the Swaraj as a goal of India, but the extremists not only aim for just economic and administrative reform, but they wanted to replace the British government from the Indian setup. So the moderates, they just want a kind of some rights for the Indians, whereas extremists believe that Britishers should leave our country. We can make rules for ourselves. There were basic difference between the method of struggle between moderates, that moderates carry their work by means of prayers and petition, but assertive nationalists focus on Swadeshi. They more focus on action, whereas we can say the moderates, they don't focus on the action, whereas the assertive nationalists, they focus on action like Swadeshi, boycott, and strict action against the British repressive policy. So this was the basic difference between the ideologies, or between the different kind of principles of both the assertive and the early nationalist. Now we are going to read about the contribution of the three extremist leaders, Lal Bal Pal, Lala Lajpat Rai, Bal Gangadhar Tilak, and Bipin Chandra Pal. So first we are going to read about the contribution of Bal Gangadhar Tilak. This is the picture of Bal Gangadhar Tilak. So Bal Gangadhar Tilak, his political beliefs, he basically believed that Swaraj is my birthright and I shall have it and I will have it. Brought the wave of nationalism among the people. And he said that this is my birthright, you can't take this from me, and I will definitely going to take it. So it became a battle cry to boost the national spirit among the people. He is a great orator. He brought the revivalism of the culture by reviving of the celebration of the festivals like Shivaji and Ganpati festival, and organized the akhada to instill the feeling of the respect for the culture and discipline. So he revived the akhada, he revived the festivals to bringing people together to revive the culture. Tilak founded the Home Rule movement in 1916 in Maharashtra and attained the title of Lokmanya. So he got the title of Lokmanya, which is acceptable by the people, and he called the Lokmanya Bal Gangadhar Tilak. He put bitter attacks, he was a great writer as well, he put the bitter attacks on the government by writing on his weeklies Maratha and Kesari. So these are the newspaper printed by him, Maratha and Kesari, in which he used to write against the British government, whatever wrongs they are doing, and for that he was arrested many times. So this was the contribution of Bal Gangadhar Tilak. The second important assertive nationalist leader was Bipin Chandra Pal. So this is a picture of Bipin Chandra Pal. Bipin Chandrakal basically awakened the national consciousness among the Indians by speeches. A great orator. He used to speak a lot in which he used to instill the people with the feeling of nationalism. He promoted the idea of Swadeshi and boycott by touring of India and promoting the idea everywhere. So he's not just speaking into his speeches, he went to various parts of the country. He spoke there about Swadeshi, how to promote Swadeshi, how to boycott the British good. So by his speeches and going from one place to another, he promoted the idea of Swadeshi. Promoted the idea of national education as well, as it will grow the passion of Indians against the foreign rule and people can learn their own native languages. He was a great journalist as well and great orator. He criticized the British governments in his papers, New India. His other work includes of the spirit of Indian nationalism and the new economic meanings to India. So whatever he is doing, he is working for the development of the Indian. And the last executive rulers which for whom we are talking about is the contribution of Lala Lajpat Rai. Lala Lajpat Rai, he is called the Punjab Kesari. He belonged to Punjab. He was a great educationalist, he was a great teacher and forceful warrior. He was associated with the Arya Samaj movement and worked for the expansion of the DAV colleges in Punjab. He actively participated in the Swadeshi and the boycott movement in Punjab. He was a promoter of Swadeshi and boycott in Punjab. He presided over the Kolkata session of the Indian National Congress in 1920 where NCM resolution was being passed, where non-cooperation movement resolution was being passed, and he was the president of that session. He formed the Nationalist Party with Madan Mohan Malviya and became the member of the Central Legislative Assembly, and he participated in the lawmaking procedure. His work includes of his monthly magazine called Young India. So that's all about this chapter. I hope you understood. Kindly please make the notes from the video and understand this chapter. Thank you so much, class.